Hey everybody, it's of course TKIF and Campus Friday, and I am so excited about our next guest. First of all, he's one of those people in R&B music that is the most recognizable voice that you'll hear. He's had crossover songs. I mean, he's just one of the greatest voices of R&B music, and we're so excited to have him here on TKIF. Please welcome for the very first time, Brian McKnight. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, what's happening? What's going on?
Nothing much at all. We appreciate you taking the time out for being here for the very first time here on TKIF. First of all,
No
so
problem.
many. I know one of the biggest questions people are going to ask: where has Brian McKnight been?
Well, I guess the question I would ask back is where do people get music? Because since '92 I've released 15 CDs. It's not like I've gone anywhere, but if all you listen to is popular music,
Hmm.
I think you have to be 19 to 24 to even get on those stations.
Hmm.
And as a romantic singer in his 40s, chances are the songs I create now are not going to be on your top 40 radio stations.
Hmm.
So you kind of have to find other places for music to be. Pandora is a great place for people to hear new music. My YouTube page, my own McKnight 360, find me on Twitter. And if you go to McKnight 360, you'll see all of my tours. That's about 100 shows a year.
Hmm.
So I'm not necessarily in the record business, but I am definitely in the touring business.
Yeah, most of it. And you just came off from a tour with your sons, right?
Well, actually, I just came back from Brazil. I did a song with a big Brazilian band down there, So Isso Maroto, and I was there for a week doing shows and press with them. So I've been all over the world. I mean, I've done music with artists from Korea and Japan and the Philippines, Latin America, and that Brazil as well. So English, but in other languages as well.
And how because you've been around the world, I'm sure you've noticed the reception of R&B music is very different as opposed to the States. How would you describe the reception, let's say, in Brazil or Korea?
Well, other places are very much the way America used to be, where they
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily define what you do by a genre. They just
Mm-hmm.
love great music, and they're continuing to create great music. So when I show up, they're not saying here's R&B star, because I think that's something Americans do. We have to compartmentalize everything, as opposed to when I was a kid, you would hear Willie Nelson, and then you hear Earth, Wind and Fire, then you hear Stevie Wonder, then you hear Rod Stewart, all on the same radio station. And I think it kind of sucks that here in America we compartmentalized. I think that was definitely to separate people from different kinds of music. But it's always great to be. I mean, it's great everywhere because I'm lucky enough to have started at a time when people still love great music, and because they are nostalgic about it, meaning that they have a memory of their lives associated with music, they'll continue to come out year after year to hear the same songs. And I think I'm very lucky where that's concerned.
Most definitely. Brian, I know you just recently released a new album, More Than Words. Why this particular album was so important for you right now?
It wasn't necessarily that it was important, but as a songwriter, I write songs. It's what I
Hmm.
do. And if there's a label that wants to partner with me and put music out, my fans are constantly asking me for more music. I'm going to release it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they'll just be sitting around. So I love to write music. I'll always write music. I just don't. I think that all of our expectations for music has changed, and that's from the top to the bottom, just because of all of the things that have happened in music over time.
Hmm.
So I put it out. They're out there for people to hear, and it's not necessarily about. I mean, it's about sales. Don't get me wrong, because I'm a businessman. But music has become very promotional. If I can put something out that's new, that people then say, "Oh, he's got something new, and he's coming on tour," and then you put all those things together, and it's about putting butts in seats at that point.
Most definitely. You were talking about how music has changed, but how have you, as an artist, how have you evolved as a songwriter and as a singer?
I think the technology is better than today. How you have the music change. You have to be on the cutting edge of technology. As far as the way I write and the way I sing and the way I play, those things have always kind of been the same.
Hmm. The
Just package
you
now.
you were saying that the way that music has changed and things like that, and you see so many artists, like Miguel and Chris Brown, and how they're coming up. Who are some of the artists that you listen to today that are new artists?
You know, I listen to everyone. The problem with today's music is you don't know necessarily who's who.
Mm.
And the radio stations don't backsell, so you know, and a lot of the music sounds the same. So there's what you like,
Hmm.
but you don't necessarily know who's singing it. So there's lots. Listen, there's lots of great music out there. The music that the kids are making today is their music. They shouldn't be expected to create the music that we created 20 years ago.
Hmm.
The question is always going to be how long is that music going to stay around?
Hmm.
Because these days it's very easy to become a star.
Yeah.
But is it easy to have a career is the question that is yet to be answered.
Do you, when you see like an artist like Chris Brown, he's not, the typical artist, from back in the day, and there's a lot of focus on his personal life and all of those other troubles and things like that. What are your thoughts on Chris Brown and the way he's conducted his career?
Well, for me, I don't really have an opinion about his personal life. I think
Mm-hmm.
that Chris Brown is one of the most talented artists that is living today.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that he's unfortunately dealing with a world that is more consumed about other things other than the music that he makes.
Mm-hmm.
So he just has to end up being cognizant about the things that he does, or not, because these days it seems to me like you can do just about anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, like I said, we'll see what happens as the years progress and if he gets a little bit older. But as far as talent goes, just talented is out there.
And speaking of controversial things, there was a point, maybe like a couple of years back, that you did this song about pussy, and it garnered so much attention, and people were saying that you were going to do a very adult album. Did you just do that for shock value, or was this, what was the mind state behind that particular song and that idea?
In actuality, if you've never seen me on tour, if you've never really paid attention to me other than what's on records, you wouldn't know that I use humor a lot
Hmm.
in my shows, in my daily life. And at that time, I had been posting a lot of different things on YouTube, on my Twitter page. And what I said was, after hearing a song in the club that said "Beat Your Pussy Up," and every girl in the club was singing the song, that I was going to create an adult mixtape. But
Hmm.
apparently people didn't know what adult meant. So I wrote this tune that wasn't about pussy. It just had pussy in the song.
Yeah.
I wrote a song about how women shouldn't settle for less than a man who is actually going to be willing and able to satisfy her. But
Hmm.
because pussy was in the song itself, people refer to that song as that song, and it told me a bunch of things. That one, people don't really listen to words, and
Hmm.
that two, they only want to follow a controversy. But for 3 days, I was the number one trending topic in the entire world. So that tells you where other people's mindset happened to be.
What what were some of the things that you learned from that experience that kind of helped you garner whatever music followed that? Because a lot of people, and I know even
Well,
here on the
it,
show we talked about it as well. But what did you learn
well,
from that
everybody
experience?
everybody has their opinion about
Hmm.
everything. I think that when you do what I do and have done what I've done for so long, considering that when I started, nobody could do anything that was dirty,
Hmm.
and where music has landed where we are now, where you can pretty much say anything you want on any record, anywhere.
Hmm.
What I learned was that people have opinions about everything, and
Hmm.
you can't please everyone. And really, the point that I made was very valid,
Hmm.
that I can write the same kind of song. I could write any time today. It's one
Hmm.
of the biggest songs I've ever written, and nobody would play it. But
Hmm.
all I have to do is write one song about pussy, and everybody will go crazy.
Hmm.
And it sucks that that's where we are in this musical landscape.
Yeah, most definitely. But do you think, if, let's say, a Trey Songz or a Chris Brown or Miguel, performed that song, it would have been received the same way?
Uh, because number one, neither one of them could have written that.
Well, if you gave it to them, let's say you gave it to them.
Once you look at it, well, again, just because I write it and I write it for Brian McKnight doesn't mean anybody else is going to be able to perform it the same. I
Yeah.
think that one thing I know is that if you start off dirty, you can always be clean.
Hmm.
If you start out clean, you can never ever be dirty.
Mm.
And that much is the truth. Maybe it would be. Maybe a song like that. I'm sure these guys sing about whatever they want to sing about because it's accepted because we're in 2013.
Yeah.
They didn't have the benefit of coming up at a time when you actually had to write about something.
Hmm. Brian, I mean, not only are you, you're legendary for your singing, but your songwriting is very much legendary because you write all of your songs pretty much. Um,
Right.
you have some really classic songs, and I know a lot of people want to know, what's the story behind, because it's so funny. I was talking about you today, and immediately the lady started singing your songs. So, and I'm sure that everybody wants to know what's the story behind, like, Back at One, or story behind Anytime.
Well, not to get specific, I live my life. Live
Mm-hmm.
my life, the people I come in contact with, the things that happen around. All those things will eventually come out in a song.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is very autobiographical. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't get into specifics about each particular song or who it was about, but they know who it was about because it was what I was dealing with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to know what's going on with me is to listen to the songs I'm writing at that time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. No details, but it's all right.
No, you never know who's listening.
Brian, every time we have a guest here, especially, someone that's legendary like yourself, everyone wants to hear your voice. Can you just sing a little something for us?
uh, Geez, what was I saying?
Anything you want.
Um, Kim and Dwight fell apart. Something that was so meant to be. Forever was a promise in our hearts. The more and more I wonder where you are. There you go.
Yes, thanks,
Yeah,
Brian.
it's real him, yeah.
Brian, because you have such a wealth of knowledge, I think it's so important when we have artists like you here on the show, just to kind of, first of all, you've already given a lot of information, especially on how the music industry has changed and evolved, and where it's at today. But for those people that are up and coming artists, people that want to be, doing what you've done and continue to do, what advice would you give to a songwriter, and also what advice would you give to a singer?
Songwriters is always the same advice. Work on your craft.
Mm,
Um, listen to every hit song there ever was. They all have the same things in common: great melodies, great lyrics, with melodies and lyrics that everyone can sing along to. For up and coming artists, I just have a question: do you want to be a star, or do you want to have a career?
mm.
Because anybody can be a star. A career takes work. A career takes dedication, and a career takes at least some talent.
Hmm. What was the best advice? Because you've been in the industry for a very long time. You've worked with some really amazing artists. What was the best advice that you received from someone in the industry that you still carry with you today?
Well, Lionel Richie told me that not to worry about critics. Don't worry about people who don't do what you do.
Mm,
Just keep writing hit songs, and all of that will take care of itself.
amen. Amen. The other day, I was interviewing a new artist, Seven, and I asked her, what is her favorite lyric? So, of course, I have to ask you, Brian McKnight, a big time singer and musician. What is one of your favorite lyrics that you've written?
I've written. I don't know, man. When you've written 2,000 songs, it's very difficult to come up with one.
Hmm.
I think if you listen to the words to Back at One, the way I used and utilized the words, the unbelievables, on just using those same words, those same kinds of words for both verses were difficult to come up with because I wanted there to be a lot of synergy. So
Hmm.
there was some cleverness in the approach to how to write those verses. So there's so many things I'm proud of. There's no way I could come with one lyric.
Hmm.
But in the Sorry song, I said, to try and count your tears would be like standing in the rain.
Mm, deep.
Yeah, yeah.
We love musicians here on the show. We love lyrics, and so when an artist like yourself comes here on the show, we have to ask you, some of your favorite, lyrics. But what is your creative process like? Do you have to be in a certain room, a certain setting? Are there certain things that you have to do to get into that creative space?
I'm I am just like 7-Eleven. I'm open all day, all night,
Wow,
365, 24/7. It doesn't
wow.
matter. I don't have to be anywhere. I can be everywhere. It just comes in that way. Yeah. And
Where's been the weirdest place that you've written a song?
I've written a song sitting on the toilet.
Was it your best song ever?
I wrote Back at One part of it sitting on the toilet. I have a guitar in there for that reason.
Wow. Wow, that's dope. Brian, anytime we have artists come here on the show, we like to run through this game called Finish This Sentence. If you can just anything that comes to mind, I want you to say.
Okay.
Okay? Finish this sentence.
Okay.
Life is.
Wow. I can't do without thinking, but life is precious.
Hmm. The person I most want to be proud of me is. Did you say it? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, it's me.
Oh.
Me first. I'm not proud of me. Then I can't expect anybody else to be.
Mm-hmm. My biggest fear is.
Being forgotten.
Wow. Do you feel like that you've had that experience, or is that something you
No, no,
often?
because every time I step on stage, I'm reminded that lots of people out there that love me.
Hmm. I am most insecure when.
Yeah, it's not really my problems. Yeah, they're just. I wish I had that inside. My parents were very good about giving us a great sense of ourselves
Mm.
and not and being grateful and thankful for everything that we've got.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that insecurity comes from wanting something that you don't necessarily have. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the way I look. This is the way I act. These are my talents. This is what I've got, and I'm very happy and proud to have what I have. So insecurity never really comes into the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
What makes me mad is.
That's the driver.
um. Okay, hold on. I had another one that I'd like to ask. Where is it? How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
3 words.
All you have is 3 words.
Sarcastic. Yeah, sarcastic, smart, and witty.
Mm. Brian, we know you have the new album More Than Words out, so we want to make sure people go out and support that. But what's coming up? I know you're going to be continue doing the touring and things like that. What else do you want to do? Because I know you ventured into radio, you've done the TV show.
Yeah.
What else do you want to do?
There are a few things on the horizon. I was sitting in a meeting right now, and I started doing this about some other things that are coming up that I'm not really willing to talk about right now. But
Hmm.
before the end of the year, we're going to Australia. We'll be in Europe, and
Wow.
we have a bunch of cities in the U.S. coming in November. So you can read about all that on McKnight360.com, or just hit me on Twitter, and I'll tell you at It's B McKnight.
Most definitely. Brian McKnight, thank you so much for taking the time out being here for the very first time. And I hope you'll come back when all these new ventures come up and you can talk more about it.
Thanks, bro. All right.